I didn't want to do this, but God told me I had to do it because somebody needed to hear it. And I don't know how long it's going to take. It depends on how soon I start crying.
Hello?
In 1976, my husband was asked if he would be in charge of running a bus to pick up kids for Vacation Bible School and Sunday School. He agreed, and I asked him if I could help. I had seen the cults out going door to door, and I thought it'd be a good idea to get there before they did.
Right.
We brought in a lot of kids, but when the church closed the doors, we went to West Rome Baptist Church, where we got into helping in the bus there. When we came to Berean in 1988, we hadn't even joined the church yet when Pastor Deverick asked us if we would take the Tecumseh route. We hadn't had any training in being bus workers all this time. Then, when the Turners moved to Tennessee, I don't know how many of you know the Turners, we switched to the Adrian route, which covered a good part of Adrian at the time. We went all the way from the east side to the west side, and the apartments way over there, and all over the place, because we only had one bus, I think. All told, we had been in the bus ministry about 40 years before my husband was diagnosed with cancer. All those years we did it because it had to be done, and it was the best tool for getting into families' homes. However, there were many times when I knew my life wasn't what it should be. I didn't read my Bible and pray consistently, sometimes not at all for weeks, even though we were working in the bus ministry. Too many other things claimed my time and attention. There came a time 2 months before my husband got sick that I prayed, Lord, I know I'm not right with you. And don't say this unless you mean it. Whatever it takes to draw us closer to you. It took cancer for my husband. We prayed a lot then, and I read the Bible. I spent a lot of time reading the Bible, but I was mostly looking up verses on healing and promises from the Word of God to give me the feeling that my husband was going to be healed. And we thought, at one point we thought he was getting better, and then he started going downhill. And then he passed away last October after 14 months. I'm stalling because I lost my place. When he lost the battle with cancer, I felt God had betrayed me. At first, my only prayers were, why? How could you do this? What about your promises? What am I going to do? I didn't want to read his word. I didn't want to do anything for him. I kept on coming to church. Once in a while, I got on the bus or went calling, but my heart wasn't in it. And I was miserable because I felt God had let me down. He didn't answer our prayers. Somebody asked me about the bus, and I said, I don't know if I can do that again. I don't even know if I want to do it without my Jimmy. I had many sleepless nights when I just cried and railed at God about how miserable I was without my husband. Gradually, the prayer changed to, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? Where are you, God? I need you in my life to help me through this. I didn't get any answers. I felt maybe I wasn't even his child and he wasn't going to help me. I was doubting my salvation even because he wasn't answering. And then I recalled the verse that if I regard iniquity in my heart, he will not hear me. I started confessing things from the past that kept coming to mind. And I confessed my anger toward him for taking my husband and my bitterness, and I still did not get an answer. I tried to figure out what was wrong, why I felt so alone. Finally, after one long sleepless night, I said, I need you in my life, God. I can't make it alone. Please help me. And that was my prayer. So many nights I'd be up till 2 o'clock in the morning. I began listening to the Bible on DVD because I was having trouble with my eyes and I couldn't see to read very well, and praying more earnestly Finally, he showed me what it was. Now, this may not be a problem for you. You may have something else that's causing a problem. But for me, it wasn't becoming an addiction. I tried to numb my pain and not feel alone by turning my TV set on, and I would sit and watch it for hours every night until I couldn't find anything halfway decent to watch, and then I'd finally go upstairs and go to bed. It was affecting my heart and my mind and hindering my prayers. I promised him I would get rid of my TV. On Monday morning, I went upstairs and I unplugged the antenna and I unplugged the television. And I had one downstairs. I unscrewed all the wiring for the antenna and I pulled it down through the floor so I wouldn't be tempted to put it back on again. I left that screen down there because my kids use it to play the Wii when they're here. The minute I made that promise to God, an overwhelming sense of his presence came over me. And then he brought to mind the verse, "Go ye out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled." Amen. That was a verse that we had heard when we first started on the bus ministry years ago. And I thought, oh, he wants me to go back into the bus ministry. I don't know if I can do it. And like Moses, I started making excuses. I still feel like Moses. I don't know if I can. I'm too old. I'm too tired. I've been out of it too long. I've got pain in my joints. I can't get up the bus steps. It's too time-consuming and it's too stressful. Do you ever use those excuses? Sorry, I don't want to preach. Sunday morning, February 26, pastor preaching on running the race from Isaiah 40, 29 through 31. You can look it up. I'm not going to quote the whole thing because it'd take a half an hour to get through this. But the last verse says, "They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." All of a sudden, my excuses were wiped out. He also mentioned the verse about the highways and hedges. In my heart, I said, okay, God, I'll help on the bus. I'll go bus calling. But when the invitation came, I had no choice but to go to the altar, which I hadn't done probably more than 3 times in the last 5 or so years. I would always stay in there and hold on to the pew and say, well, I can take care of this in my seat, whatever it was. But I never did. Don't preach. When I got up to the front, I wanted to sit on the pew because if I get down on my knees, I can't get up by myself. But God said, kneel. It was like he was standing right there telling me, kneel. And I got down on my knees and I started praying, Lord, I'll get back into the bus ministry. I'll go bus calling. I'll help on the bus. But I don't know if I can take the bus back and run the whole thing again. And he said, you're going to do this, and you are going to go up on the platform and tell pastor that you're going to do this. And it's like, I don't want to go up on the platform. But he said, you have to go up on the platform. And so I did. Fortunately, Mrs. White and Mrs. Barnum helped me get up, or otherwise I'd still be there. I don't know what's happened these last couple of weeks. I feel like I've had a revival in my heart, almost like I did when I was saved. I've had an overwhelming sense of God's presence with me. He's asked me to do things I've never done before. And he's put a burden on my heart for the families on our bus routes and for revival in our church. Amen. There should be, I'm not going to preach. So much so that instead of crying over my husband, I find myself falling to my knees and weeping 2 or 3 times a day for the families on our bus routes. I tell God constantly, I need your help. I don't know how to do this. I'm just one person, a 73-year-old woman. Please burden other people for the broken homes in our community. Someone asked me, without a computer or a TV, what do you do all day? Well, I listen to and read my Bible. I find excuses to go into town and pass out tracts. God had me order 1,000 smiley face tracts. And every day I have to replenish my supply in my purse because I can't put very many in there at a time. I visit people. I call, write, or send cards to people that I know have just been recently widowed. In the evening, I sit at the piano with the hymn book and I sing to God. And the Bible says that God inhabits our praises.
That's right.
At night, I can finally sleep, which I hadn't done for months. That is, unless I eat chocolate in the afternoon. I've never felt so not alone in my life. Every day I ask him, what shall I do today? And he tells me, and I try to do it because I don't want to ever feel alone without him again. One time I was in a store, and this is adding to it, but I got to give this example. There's more to this story than this, but I had to go to Tecumseh. Actually, I went to Clinton to get some honey, and on the way back, God told me, well, I had to get some honey for 2 other people. I was going to just get it for me, but he told me I had to get it for 2 other people, and he told me who. And on the way home, he said, you need to get something to go with it. So I stopped at the store, and I got some English muffins to go with it. And as I was going through the line, there was this elderly man in front of me, and he had some punch keys, and he asked the clerk what they were, and she said, they're punch keys. And he said, what are they? And I said, they're very fattening. He said, well, they're probably not good for me then, but it doesn't matter, I'm dying of cancer anyway. And I didn't think a thing about it until I went out the door, and God said, you didn't give that man a tract, and he's dying of cancer. I looked all over the parking lot trying to find him, and he'd already left. So I got in my car, and I started home, and I got partway home, and he said, you didn't give one to the clerk either. So guess what I had to do? I had to turn around and go back because I didn't want God to be mad at me. And I apologized for not giving it to the old man. And I went all the way back to the store and parked in the parking lot and went in the store. And I found the lady and I said, I was supposed to give you this and I didn't. Here, this is for you. And she said, thank you. And I finally said, now can I go home? No, you have to deliver the honey. I haven't ate lunch yet. You can deliver the honey. Somebody will feed you. And somebody did. Every day, oh, I already said that. Before my husband passed away, that morning, 3 times, actually, morning, afternoon, he died at 5:30. No, he died at 8 o'clock. Anyway, before he passed away, several times he went like this. He looked up and he said, unbelievable. I said, what are you seeing? He didn't say anything. He just said, it's unbelievable. I believe he had a vision of heaven. And after the last couple of weeks, I feel like I could say the same thing, unbelievable. Yeah. Would you all please pray for me and for all the bus workers that God will help us to reach the unchurched families and the broken homes in this community? And would you ask God what he would have you to do?
Amen.